when people started making Yalgun and discovering rock and roll in China, which was in the early mid-'80s, they looked to the 1960s in America and saw a lot of parallels because China was going through immense changes at the time. And they also read a lot about rock and roll in the United States in the 60s and what it meant and how rock and roll was going to change the world. And so they saw it as a way that they could affect their society. And so in that respect, that's sort of in a more abstract way that Yalgun is different from rock and roll. I think really, to walk into a club in any major city, and by major city, there's a long list of them. You walk into a rock club in China today, and it doesn't look a lot different from any major Western city in terms of what you're seeing on the stage, what kind of music is coming back out at you, which is not to say it's necessarily derivative. Of course, there's a lot of derivative music. But Yalgun isn't just music that's played in a rock form, but with like a Chinese instrument or using the Chinese scale or anything like that. It's, I think, more of this embodiment of this long, strange march, if you will, that the music has taken through China's evolution and development over the past 30, 40 years. So I do think that Yalgun has really been a great mirror. It's been a great method by which to see the changes that have happened over the past 40 years, and those changes have been huge. A guy like Cui Jian, who is Yalguner number one, invented the thing in 1986, basically. He has been making music for the past 30 odd years, that I think is very representative of the path his nation has traveled. I think he's one of these sort of models of, he's the personification of what's happened to China over the years. And I do think that his music represents that too. You have a lot of, also in addition to Cui Jian, you have a lot of contemporary bands now that are very much the product of this sort of uber modernization, uber urbanification, that's not a word. What is the word?
Urbanization.
Urbanization, thank you. This sort of rush to newer, better, bigger, faster. I think it's really, musically, it's expressed through bands like A Lonely China Day, which sounds like it's music from the future, which I feel like you don't have to spend too much time in China to see that it's a country that's constantly on, in search of the future, making things more modern and more. So a band like Lonely China Day is a really good example of a very now sound. There's other bands like a PK-14 that just sounds like the cities of China, what they're going through in the sort of general sense of this massive and intense change. Yeah, I mean, the question of political elements of Yalgun is a really important question, and it's something that, again, going back to that idea of a Westerner going, oh, Chinese rock and roll, of course it's politics. No band really, there are probably a couple of exceptions, but no band will ever come out and say, yes, we're making a political statement. What they say is we're talking about what our lives are like. Because to use the word political is just, political in the Chinese context, in the minds of people playing Yalgun, is the party. And you don't mess with the party. You just, if you want to continue doing what you're doing. There are, I think the most political, if we're going to just sort of use the word anyway, artists are not the ones that are saying things directly. What they are is they're demonstrating through their very being, through what they do, through the music, the fact that they make music and they've chosen this life of rock and roll, are making very important political statements that even in 2012 are important for kids to hear, because there's not a real wide sense that you can do the things you might want to do, or that there are options out there. And so I think Yalgun, just as an example of something that one can strive for, that one can participate in, that if you feel like you don't belong in the society that says get a wife, get a job, get a car, get a fridge, get a whatever, that there's not something fundamentally wrong with you.